Okay, so the second season of Hazbin Hotel is out. Not going to lie, I was expecting that to take longer. Hi everyone, if my voice sounds weird, I am sick. So bear with me. Regular viewers will remember that I reviewed the first season relatively positively, while largely sidestepping popular complaints of the first season that I felt were either petty or not really worth engaging with, and putting a pin in an actually big criticism because I wanted to see where Medrano was going with it first. Unfortunately, between the pilot and season 1, Medrano and Spindlehorse had become the target of the People's Republic of Overreactistan, and I'd inadvertently stepped on a landmine by not checking to make sure the creator I was about to praise wasn't currently being obsessed over by sad loser neckbeards with nothing better to do with their time. Not the first time I've done that, and it certainly wasn't the last, because as I always say, anyone who does this shit should jump in traffic. So I've been quietly procrastinating on covering season 2, because in that time, the psychopathy has only gotten worse, with Medrano's critics now trying to demonize her for selling posters and shit-talking conservatives. We live in a period where a large portion of young people online are petulant, antisocial assholes, and so there's whole swaths of pathetic little bitch whales stalking anyone and everyone who inadvertently reminds them of their own failings. So you can't praise any artist without someone jumping up desperate to spill some tea regarding them that you've already heard and dismissed last year. Ugh, CD, why are you stalling?
Season 2 is kinda bad.
Oh. Look, see, this was not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to vindicate the desk whales. Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel is really fucking bad. It starts and ends at the exact same point that Season 1 ended at, and all of Season 1's cliffhangers and dramatic tension gets postponed for Season 3. Why? I have no fucking idea. The season is specifically about the aftermath of Charlie beating back the Exorcist and killing Adam, who proceeds to lose every last marble she's had while the Vees...
Fuck me.
Okay, so this season's really slow and 100% serialized, so covering it plot by plot just isn't going to work. So I'm just going to read off my notes, and that's just going to be the video. So the first thing that stuck out to me is that the episodes are no longer in the 22-minute format, and their length varies. Like, this ordinarily wouldn't be a bad thing, like a few extra minutes is nothing to sneeze at, but this extra time seems almost exclusively used to add more songs. There's now, like, 3 per episode, which is just way too fucking many. The songs are almost always used to yada yada over characterization in favor of spectacle. Like, season 1 had about 2 songs per episode, and the only good ones were Stayed, Gone, Poison, and Hell's Greatest Dad, because they were extremely plot relevant and heavy on characterization, and felt like they were used to cram more into a smaller space, while the rest always felt like taking a small piece of plot or characterization and just stretching it out to breaking point. The one that gets me the most here is Gravity. Like, one big heavy metal vengeance anthem setting up Lute going on a rampage of revenge against Charlie for killing the man she loved. The problem is that's Adam. Lute was in love with this guy.
Call me Dickmaster.
Like, from the first moment he showed up, Adam has been a complete fucking joke. Like, his death was played for laughs. Lucifer jokes about cucking him twice. Worse even, it doesn't even get paid off, because despite all this setup, Lute, like Adam, is a raging misogynist, so the moment Abel says, "Bitch, fall in line," she just does, and slinks back to heaven like a scolded puppy. So already this is ridiculous. So already this song goes on far longer than it needs to. Sure, in isolation, when you're listening to it on your phone on the bus, it sounds good, but they don't exist in isolation. Had they given this exact same song to any other character, like if Charlie had been grievously wounded and this was Vaggie singing, it'd have worked. You might think, if the song itself is fine, is it really fair to call it the worst because of who is singing it and why? Yes, that's how musical numbers work. It's like if Alastor started singing Cherry Wine about Rosie. A musical number isn't just about the quality of the song in isolation, it's also about how it fits into the story and how it serves the plot, and Hazbin Hotel's songs just really fail at both of those things. They sound nice on a CD, but in the middle of the episode there is jarring and sudden a tonal shift as having the channel changed on you. Season 1 had a few that worked really well, but then other times you get shit like a song where the title and chorus gets repeated 15 times, any song that includes Charlie being 18 times longer than it needs to be, and the worst offender is where you have to listen to some cottony bitch choking on a dick for 2 minutes. Undeniably, the best musical number of the season is Clean It Up by a country mile, because it's what a musical number should be. For one, it's fun. For two, it's directly tied into the storyline in a way that doesn't feel like the script said insert musical number here. The setup is that Charlie is foolishly trying to defend herself on a hostile news station and asks Nifty to tell everyone what she loves about the hotel. Of course, Nifty does exactly that in song, but Charlie, you deserve that. You asked Nifty of all people for help. But partway through, Charlie asked her to help differently, and Nifty instead breaks into song about how Charlie is a great boss and she believes in her dream. There's just one little fucking floor. This is the most masterfully executed punchline I've seen in a very long time. If every musical number was this well done, I would not be writing this section right now. There are a few other musical moments that I like, but they're all smaller portions of a much larger and worse song, so I don't really count them. By and large, Season 2 has far more misses than it does hits, but that's not really surprising. Once I noticed that the voice actors from the pilot had been replaced with Broadway actors, I had this feeling of dread that the series was going to be one of those shows, where the creator has aspirations of being a Broadway theater producer and was determined to crowbar it in no matter what. I mean, even the genre is listed as a musical. Animated shows don't normally do that. But the thing is, I don't think of musical theater when Hazbin Hotel starts thinking. You know what I think of? I think of AMVs and animatics set to Heather's songs. That's the first thing that comes to mind because most of the time there is a fundamental disconnect between the music and the story it's trying to tell. Most of these musical numbers... Okay, have you ever been listening to a song and just imagine some complex animation playing out in your head and you don't really know what it connects to, it's just vibing? No, just me? Well, that's what musical numbers in Hazbin Hotel feel like. Someone cooked them up while vibing one day and just left figuring out where it goes for someone else. And since I know someone's going to ask, here's the ranking. Season 2 pits the hotel as a diametric opposite to V Tower, setting up the Vees as antagonists. This made the season something of a slog because I find the Vees to be as interesting as styrofoam floating in milk. They're like if a multimedia company was run by glue-huffing lunatics who stalk e-celebs all day. Valentino is just the entire sex industry rolled into a person. Velvet has a good voice actress, or at least I've been told. Her Cockney accent is so thick that when she talks it sounds like she's chewing on a dick. But even then she has basically no personality. And Vox... Actually, what exactly do you do here, Fox? The idea behind the Vees is that they're a dangerous group of corrupt media demons, but the thing about media companies is they aren't exactly smart or savvy. Their ability to do business is reliant almost entirely on how gullible and dumb the audience is, which varies wildly by generation. The Vees wouldn't have any power if the average sinner in hell wasn't dumb as rocks. You see, most stories about the media, and that's really what Season 2 is, are really stories about the audience. The idea that the media is this big brain genius entity manipulating the innocent public to do this or buy that against their basic will is ridiculously overblown in the public imagination because it lets the people off the hook. Media companies are often portrayed as these scary propaganda machines, but any glance at industry news would tell you that big media corporations are incompetent leeches profiting off the gullible public and nearly stepping into bankruptcy on an almost daily basis. For the last few years, we've been watching big media companies make blunder after blunder after blunder, constantly misstepping and misreading the room, and we're supposed to believe they're some manipulative schemers because the generation that ate Tide Pods fall for the kinds of scams their great-grandparents are falling for? Give me a fucking break. Even the Vees' incompetence gets shown over the course of their first musical number, building up a new star, overexposing her until people get bored of her, and only the hyper-parasocial nutcases are left, and then once these people finally leave, just throwing her out on her ass. The only real effect these companies have is being able to pass their poor decisions onto their employees. A lot of it feels very personal, given that this exact thing happened to Medrano herself, going from a person poised to save animation by an internet culture that put her on a pedestal to being public enemy number one for the sort of people who stalk e-celebs incessantly over petty personal grievances, pretending to have noble intentions. But make no mistake, the public bears 100% of the responsibility for cases like this. So it's always been hard to take the Vees seriously as villains because their entire existence is based off a pervasive conspiracy theory about manufactured consent. They make a big show of Vox using literal hypnosis vision to create cult-like followers, but the funny thing about hypnosis and propaganda is that neither of those things can be done to you against your will, and neither can make you do something you do not want to do. Propaganda works specifically because you want it to be true. Most of the season is taken up by Vox and his backstory and problems. He's a character that's never really had any talent of his own, but has always had lofty ambitions, and so keeps trying to get the overlords to team up with him to make up for the fact that he's completely useless. This season reveals that what Alastor had said about him was right, and that the reason Vox hates him is because he wanted to team up with him to leech off of his power, and Alastor laughed in his fucking face at what a pathetic little wretch he was. And the entire season is one long string of, yep, that sure is a bitchy little media whore. The thing is, it's said over and over again that Velvet and Valentino are the real powers in the Vees, and while they are certainly the ones doing all the actual work, neither of them are actually interesting characters either. Valentino is about as one-dimensional as a character can get and is only an effective villain for Angel Dust. Oh, by the way, Angel Dust was a hypnotized sleeper agent the whole time. Like, they just undid all of his character development. Not sure why they did that, but whatever. Overall, the Vees are put into the position of being the arc villains for the season, but in terms of characterization, they're like Team Rocket, but if Jesse and James were replaced with pieces of wood with toothy grins drawn on them, and Meowth was replaced with the TV playing reruns of Jerry Springer. Ultimately, I just didn't really care about the sheer ocean of drama between Vox and Alastor. When Alastor finally broke out of captivity, I was just thinking, finally, smoke this bitch already. Oh, speaking of which... Holy shit, if there was a standout character in this season, it was Alastor. Almost all the best moments in the season revolve around Alastor in some way. Makes sense, as Alastor is the most interesting character in this series, because he's always either doing something important or being funny.
Alastor, shouldn't you help her?
Should I? Perhaps. Will I? No. Do I enjoy being difficult? Most definitely.
The best episode of Season 1 is where he just gets into a dick measuring contest with Lucifer, and the best episode of Season 2 is the one where Alastor gets to just psychologically torment that damn TV set. What I often like about Alastor is that he's a character who sparks a lot of questions, but the show doesn't make you wait for eternity to get answers to them. Season 1 ended with the revelation that Alastor had some kind of deal he had to get out of, and then halfway through Season 2, it turns out he made a deal with Rosie in life to gain power in hell because he wanted to continue his fun being killing people. A lot of people were down on the revelation that Rosie owned Alastor's soul because they seemed to have such a good friendship, and there was this theory out there that Lilith owned Alastor's soul because Alastor vanishing lines up with Lilith vanishing. I dislike this attitude on two fronts. One, just because people on the surface appear to have a positive relationship doesn't mean they actually do. That's the kind of dipshit internet brain rot that suggests you can tell people's true nature based on vibes because you're a smart and savvy person who is paying attention to your surroundings, aren't you? Anyone who's ever had to spend Thanksgiving with a conservative family can tell you just because someone seems pleasant doesn't mean things are pleasant. And the thing is, Rosie's affection for Alastor is genuine, but she does still enjoy the power she has over Alastor. And because Alastor's deal with Rosie was working out for him for a while, he didn't really seem all that bothered with the arrangement either. It's like keeping up a friendly relationship with your boss. But now the cracks are showing. Alastor was injured and his staff was broken, and after a lot of the shit Rosie has been putting him through lately, it's all just getting to be too much, and he needs to get out of it. They may have had a friendly relationship beforehand, but this is where the cracks start to form. Furthermore, not every abusive relationship looks the same. This is something we used to rake Family Guy over the coals for. Not every overlord is going to behave like the Vees, and in fact, every overlord is someone who owns souls. Rosie was at that meeting of about 15 overlords who own millions of souls between them. Even Alastor himself is this. He literally owns 2 souls himself, and deputizes them to work at the hotel, and about 90% of the time he puts on a friendly demeanor with both of them, but we are still talking about a cannibalistic serial killer. Secondly, the theory that Lilith owned Alastor's soul was always really fucking dumb. Fan theories always revolve around what would make the most dramatic "oh shit" moment, the "I am your father" moment. Fan theories always lead toward conspiracies and secret shadowy villains who are secretly behind everything, and you know what we call that where I'm from? We call it this guy.
That's right, champion. Poop out those amber seeds. It's all going according to my master plan.
Look, there's no way around it, these theories fucking suck. They're always the most cliched, obvious plot twist that any passing 6-year-old can think of. If anything, writers are only encouraged to not go with ideas like this because fans jump to them immediately as the first theory they ever make. Lilith already has theories about how she made some kind of elaborate bargain, but the most likely explanation is Lilith became unhappy with her life and left. That's what she does. It's literally in the opener. So the idea that Alastor, a vicious and bloodthirsty overlord who likes toying with his food before eating it, was secretly under the yoke of Lilith, the exact opposite of Alastor in every way, was always absurd. Moving on from that, part of what makes Alastor so much fun in this season is that he's the only major character who hasn't been whacked with the idiot stick and actually pulls off a really good triple cross between calling in his favor from Charlie to get out of his debt to Rosie, pulling an old-fashioned genie's trick on Vox, and then holding literally all of hell to ransom to get Rosie to fix his staff. Just fucking golf clap. That was masterfully played. I felt like I just watched a figure skater pull off the Iron Lotus. The thing that gets me is that so far Alastor has always managed to move in ways that end up looking good in front of Charlie because he wants Charlie to trust him. If anything, him up and quitting the hotel in the 4th episode is wildly out of character for him because he was working extremely hard to gain Charlie's trust so he could take advantage of her power. This is a sign that an idea was changed somewhere. Charlie is a valuable asset, so Alastor always ends up trying to look good in front of her, which means Charlie is under the impression they have an actual friendship. Sure, that's something Alastor would laugh at, but ironically, Alastor would have been dead at the end of Season 2 if it weren't for Charlie's sincere concern for his well-being. Alastor may be the most powerful sinner in hell, but he's not the most powerful being in hell. Charlie is both powerful and a bleeding heart, and her affection is a valuable thing to have. It's the kind of manipulator character I haven't seen done this well since KOTOR 2. It helps that, unlike most conventional manipulators, we see him moving his pieces and winning material in short order. It's not just something hanging over the story for 4 seasons. It's like Season 1, he established he's got an agenda. Season 2, he fulfills literally everything on that agenda, and now we get to wonder what else he's gonna do. It's all very interesting shit going on with him. Back in Season 1, I had this suspicion that Alastor was gonna end up in a position where he could betray everyone for his own gain, only to realize he's grown fond of them and be like, fuck. Not because I thought he was soft-hearted or redeemable or anything, but because it would be objectively funny. Season 2's made it clear they're going for big anime drama, so I suspect all that relying on others makes you weak shit is going to bite him in the ass really hard, you know, like Xehanort. It's shown that Alastor is on the back foot instantly when it's 2v1 or more, and he doesn't have any recourse for that outside of belittling the person for relying on others, and not everyone has Vox's ego to yank on. Say what you will about the Vees, they do genuinely like each other. Alastor sees other people only as pawns to move on a board, and sooner or later that's going to bite him in the ass. Alastor is probably the best written character in the series. He takes elements of characters that have worked well in the past and just dials them up to 11. He's not just competent and cunning, he's also funny. Now, last time we talked about the show, I noticed a difference between how Alastor's voodoo imagery had been toned down between the pilot and the actual release. I suspected that this was the result of responding to feedback, but simply not doing it enough, and decided to hold off on making a judgment on that to see if Season 2 did more to address it. They did not. If anything, they only doubled down on it, with Alastor's deal with Rosie playing out like he's summoning a Loa. So yeah, I feel comfortable marking that down as a concrete negative, and a big one at that. You know, I had a hunch about something and it didn't pay off. Can't be psychic all the time. Okay, so here's where Hazbin Hotel reaches the inevitable problem. The problem that all these shows will eventually have to deal with, in that they have the premise, setup, characters, and writing talent of a tightly written, character-focused drama, yet they keep trying to make this big, sprawling, lavishly produced spectacle where characters and themes ultimately suffer under the grandiosity of the creator's vision. Indie animation is still overwhelmingly dominated by people who grew up watching AMVs and listening to J-pop while daydreaming complex animations with their favorite characters, and that is ultimately what Hazbin Hotel is. That wouldn't be a problem except for the fact that we're in a media landscape where the budget, scope, and scale of animation is increasingly favoring the miniseries model, which means smaller stories with lower stakes written more tightly. I sympathize with the people who want to make their grand, maltheistic rock opera, but you don't have the resources for that, and trying to cram it in anyway is only making previously forgivable problems compound on each other. The season's fixation on this tangled web of character motivations starts severely hurting the actually interesting characters. Charlie goes from a naive but optimistic character to a borderline zealot who is so deaf to the feelings of everyone around her that she puts them in horrible conditions trying to replicate her one success, and the plot of the hotel grinds to a halt while we wait for Charlie to pick up her brain cells. There's 2 entire episodes dedicated to Charlie just not getting the message that Vox Tech is a den of liars who manipulate people to create entertainment for a sadistic public. It's like watching someone willingly go on stream to debate someone who just lied about them on air. And while that's happening, like 6 other plot threads are competing for the same space. The 4th episode is jammed with a ton of plot that doesn't have any room to breathe because it has to be crammed in alongside Charlie being a bozo and a number of songs that don't benefit the story. It's all just more stuff thrown into Darling Baby's trough, and none of it is really satisfying enough on its own. But it's big, you know, it's big and impressive looking from afar. So much of the story is just every character stammering and hesitating and going, no, 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 while Vox keeps running his mouth like a hyperactive squirrel, and every character who actually knows what he's doing is just conveniently out of frame or gets tied to a fucking chair for half the season. And in the end, we're back at the exact same place we started. The exterminations are over, the hotel is more popular, and we get an ominous Lilith cliffhanger. All we achieved this season was removing Vox from the board and fixing Alastor's staff. Last year it was announced that the series was renewed for a third and fourth season after how successful the first season was, and it's clear that they were given a much bigger budget this time around, and so it seems that Medrano decided, wait, 3 more seasons? Cool, I'm doing an entire arc about Vox and Alastor's beef. And despite my criticisms, I don't begrudge that. Sometimes creators put things in their work that's just for them, and them alone. In fact, I'd be more surprised if a creator didn't do that. If this were 8 years ago, I'd be harshly criticizing Hazbin Hotel for wasting a season on a pointless indulgence. But as I'm often fond of reminding people, my anger in those early videos was a symptom of a bigger problem. These days, I don't even make videos on things I don't like. But in this case, people wouldn't shut up about it, and so coming in feeling like the season is dull is just a really bad day at work. I'm saying all this because I don't want my criticisms of Hazbin Hotel to be vindication for psychotic fucksticks who desperately need to walk in front of a truck and end the miserable tale that is their lives. Either way, I'm coming out of Season 2 going, well, that was disappointing, but I'm still looking forward to Season 3. Hazbin Hotel likes to wrap up a storyline at the end of a season, so at least I know all of this Vox and V shit is over and done with, and we can move on to something way more interesting. I'm CD Call, thanks for watching.